These are the only images we've seen of Canadian troops on the ground in Afghanistan. It was shared with Global News by a veterans group working to get Afghan interpreters out of the country, and was, according to that group, shot by an Afghan interpreter.
Here are Canadian forces over there. We came here since 6 a.m. morning. We are waiting here. No Canadian forces is hearing our voice.
This is a rush against time.
Retired General David Fraser is part of the veterans group. He says they've been able to get visas for about 15% of the families they're trying to help. That leaves 85% still stuck. So far, how many have gotten out? Only 3%.
It's gotten better, but it's not good enough. We still got people on the ground that need to get out.
Global News spoke to one of those former interpreters. We're protecting his identity. He says he has visas to go to Canada for himself and his wife, but not for his children. They have 6.
I can't live without the children. And where should I leave them to? I mean, there's no place, there's no one right here in Afghanistan.
The interpreter says he's been to the airport twice with his family, and both times hasn't seen Canadian soldiers or officials. He can't keep going back because it's too dangerous. They have to go through Taliban checkpoints.
They were hitting the people, they were tearing the documents, and I couldn't able to show them these kind of documents like I worked with a Canadian.
Now, reaching the airport is becoming harder and harder. The Taliban has promised safe passage to people trying to leave by plane, but there are more and more reports of beatings at checkpoints and people being turned around. Mike Armstrong, Global News.
Without American support, the evacuation mission would collapse, and U.S. President Joe Biden is still sticking to the August 31st deadline, a deadline his administration negotiated with the Taliban. Biden is projecting calm when the world can see the chaotic, desperate scenes at the airport. Our Washington Bureau Chief Jackson Proskow is with me. Jackson, the Biden administration has been negotiating with the Taliban for a long time now, and now the head of the CIA has gone to Kabul?
That's right, Donna. You know, this curious development actually unfolded yesterday, a secret meeting in Kabul between the CIA director and the de facto leader of the Taliban. It's the highest level meeting involving the U.S. and the Taliban since the militant group seized control of Afghanistan. U.S. officials are framing these talks as being operational and tactical, centered around the continued efforts to evacuate U.S. citizens and allied Afghans. The CIA director, though, is an interesting choice as chief negotiator here, given the long and complex history between the CIA and Taliban, and given that the Taliban leader was actually captured and imprisoned as a result of a CIA operation years ago. But the White House insists they need the cooperation of the militant group to finish the airlift by August 31st, and they admit they are making contingency plans just in case they can't meet that deadline.
The Taliban have been taking steps to work with us so we can get our people out, but it's a tenuous situation. We're already had some gunfighting break out. We run a serious risk of it breaking down as time goes on.
Jackson, this is the biggest foreign policy challenge of Biden's presidency. He promised an orderly withdrawal. It's been anything but. So how much is this affecting Biden's image and reputation?
Well, for the first time in his young presidency, he's actually underwater in his approval ratings. Just 41% approve of the job he's doing as president. 55% now disapprove, and it really is his handling of the Afghanistan situation that's dragging him down here. Just 26% of Americans say they approve of the job he's doing handling that file, even though a majority of Americans, in principle, support the idea of withdrawing U.S. forces from Afghanistan. We should point out that to date, 77,000 people have been airlifted out of that country, and tonight, U.S. troops are slowly starting their drawdown in anticipation of leaving ahead of that looming deadline.
Okay, Jackson Proskow in Washington, thanks.